You've just been asked to design a logo for a very talented music artist. You check out the music online, it sounds great. Matter of fact, sounds so good, sounds like the kind of thing you might bump in your car, the kind of thing you might play at home, something that you might chill to, dance to, even through this whole quarantine pandemic craziness. But here's the catch. You've only got 48 hours to complete the logo. How would you do it? That's what we're going to talk about today here on the Brandlands. What's up, guys? It's Chuck West of CW Brand Solutions. Welcome to the Brandlands, a place where we discuss the world of branding and the branding of worlds. 48 hours only to design a logo for a very talented music artist. How will we do it? Some things have to be done faster. So we don't have that week, we don't have that month. All right, let's dive in. So the first thing to understand, the minute you get off the call with the client, or the minute that the project is given to you, you need to start right away, okay? Hopefully you're doing this with your week-long to month-long to 6-month-long projects already, no matter how much time you're given. But when you've only had 48 hours, it becomes very crucial just to get that engine going and get those creative juices flowing. So we're gonna use an example of the artist Mariya Takeuchi. Mariya Takeuchi is a very popular Japanese pop singer, became popular in the 80s, and just last year had a resurgence of popularity around the world with her song Plastic Love. Okay, so let's start by looking up basic information about Mariya. Remember, I've said it before, I'll say it again. A logo is meant to be a distinctive identifier for a person or brand. It doesn't have to be a complete story. So let's start by looking at Mariya Takeuchi's roots and how we could use that information to build a unique symbol for her, okay? Now her name is Mariya Takeuchi. That's a long name. So it's best if we stick with a symbol and not a logotype, not a word mark, okay? Now this is something that you'll hear from people like Sagi Haviv over at Shemaev, Geshmar, and Haviv. If you're looking for inspiration, definitely check out some of the logos and symbols and word marks that they've done. But considering the fact that Mariya Takeuchi's name is fairly long and a little bit complex, a lot of syllables, we're gonna go with a symbol and not a word mark. So we looked into Mariya Takeuchi's background, and what do we find? She is originally from a place called Taisha. So we started looking up information about Taisha. Okay, now here you see Taisha's emblem. Here you see Taisha's very famous shrine. So we start off by drawing those things just to get an idea of the kind of symbols that she is accustomed to. What kind of symbols would she be interested in? What kind of symbols would really strike her fancy immediately, right? So we start with those two symbols. And then we can do things like break those symbols apart. See how we've taken the Taisha logo or Taisha emblem, and just split them into what they are, the original elements, circles, the combination of line segments and the parentheses in different shapes. We do the same for this shrine here, the curved lines, the arcs that intersect, and the square and rectangular structures and the line structures. Okay, those are all things that are familiar to Mariya Takeuchi. Now, we're not saying that that's going to be the logo just yet. We're just drawing out symbols and shapes to get the juices flowing, to get our mind thinking, okay, this is a part of Mariya's identity. This will be a part of her unique identity. So we take a look at this. You see these two rectangles here and this bow tie shape in the middle up top. That was a callback to what Mariya Takeuchi was wearing on the album cover for her song Plastic Love. And like we said before, Plastic Love has had a huge resurgence, even though it's back from the 80s. It's had a huge resurgence in popularity around the world. So those who really enjoy her music today know her for that song and that album cover. So we keep the suspenders and the bow tie in mind. And we also took a look at the typography that was used for Mariya's name on that album cover. You see this, we have this very fine stroke. Now I have the Y-A in her name beneath Mari, the M-A-R and I, not because it looked like that on the album, but because I ran out of space when I was drawing. But this is the kind of typography that we saw on that album cover, okay? We also looked at the kind of things or the kind of music she was inspired by. Now, apparently when she was a child growing up in Japan, she was hugely influenced by the Beatles. So we did a sketch of the Beatles logo type just to see what kind of letter form she would enjoy, what kind of letter form she might be into. All right, so we keep this curved serif font, very sharp. We keep that in mind. Now we keep on sketching. Now, what else did we learn about Mariya during our research? She played a number of instruments, including piano and guitar. So we think about those shapes, think about the shapes of the white and black keys on the piano. She went to Rock Falls High School in Illinois. Yeah, she actually went to high school in America, even though she was from Japan. So we looked at the Rock Falls logo just to see more symbols that she's accustomed to. We also did some quick sketches of the structures of the high school. Again, nothing etched in stone. We're just taking in all the different shapes and symbols and forms and letter forms that Mariya is used to and that would spark Mariya's fancy. And we're trying to figure out how we can take those different ideas and symbols and put them into a unique identity symbol. Okay, so as we move further, we had the pleasure of finding Mariya Takeuchi's unique signature. Now look at this M here, this cursive M. You see how there's an extra loop going on right here? That's very interesting. So we're going to keep that in mind. Also, we have this, this sunflower-shaped, this curved flower shape going on here above the I in Mariya. You see how I wrote, I did that because, maybe we could use that for part of the logo design. All right, so let's keep going. As we move forward, we started looking at other things that she did in her life. She went to Keio University, which was back in Japan, a very prestigious Japanese university. So we started looking at the symbolism there. This is their logo, this is their emblem, the shield shape with the two pens crossed, kind of like you would see two swords crossed on a crest. We also started to play with the idea of putting her first initial into that crest shape. We had this little M shape going on. We had an M and a T going on. Very sketchy. Again, we're just generating ideas. We also decided to sketch out that Plastic Love album cover. As you can see, it's her with the suspenders and the bow tie. We also took the crest and mixed it with that cursive M from her personal signature, see what we can get. We also took that flower shape, put it on the crest, and we tried to use them both, combine them into the crest shape, put them on their own. So we started getting an idea of the signature M and that little flowery shape there, okay? Now, beneath here, you see I have written the word city pop, okay? Now, I wrote city pop because this is the genre of music that Mariya Takeuchi is a part of. They labeled her genre as city pop, and that's a famous kind of pop genre in Japan. It's a mixture of different genres from jazz to pop, American pop specifically, as well as funk and a little bit of R&B. So that being said, we decided to look at the different kind of imagery we saw in 80s city pop albums. So as you can see, I've taken notes here, gradients. I wrote the word complementary, meaning complementary colors. You'd see different landscapes and cityscapes. In other words, there were a number of pieces of city pop art that would have, it would be a very dramatic sunset. And by dramatic, I mean, it would show a gradient from purple to a light orange color. So very dramatic skyline showing corporate building shapes. So we would see these geometric pieces like rectangles, triangles, that sort of thing, you know. And we would also see neon colors in the sky, again, going back to the gradients. And I did some sketches of the gradients, just different spherical shapes, spherical shapes. And these are just things we want to keep in mind as we're pushing forward. Now we kept sketching and kept sketching. Looking more into the city pop art, we saw that there was a lot of geometric Japanese writing. Now, if you look up here, see how I'm putting the mouse there? Matter of fact, let me, just in case, let me go ahead and annotate this for you. Okay, right? Okay. So this, you see here, right? This is Japanese katakana. That's one of the Japanese alphabets. And it's written with this very geometric style, you know, straight line segments, you know, things intersecting, nothing too curvy and fancy like you might see in Japanese hiragana and kanji, which are two different Japanese alphabets. And we also went into the different circular shapes that you would see in. Hold on, let me erase this real quick. Eraser. Okay. We also went into the circular shapes, as you can see below. Now I started messing with chopsticks just a little bit, just because, you know, Japan. I know, a bit stereotypical, but you know, again, when you're sketching, you just want to put out as many different shapes and thoughts as you can, even if they're cliche, even if they're stereotypical, because not only do you want to get the good ideas down, you want to get the bad ones down too, so that you know what not to do. And hey, sometimes using chopsticks is appropriate for an Asian brand. It all depends on what the person is looking for. Okay, so started messing with the form of the M a little bit. What I really want to stress here is just keep sketching and sketching and sketching. I know a lot of beginning designers, what they'll do, they'll sketch for maybe an hour and they'll go really, really slow, because, you know, we want things to be perfect. We want things to be etched in stone. Sometimes we think that designing logos are going to be easier than we think. And so we're like just trying to perfect everything. But it's not about getting that perfect idea right from the jump. That's not always going to happen. Usually that won't happen at all. We just want to make sure we are generating as many thoughts and ideas as we can. So as you can see, I took the, I'll annotate this part for you too. Hold on. Right. Okay. As you can see, I took Mariya's signature M and put it over that gradient circle to mix with the city pop concept. Just messing around with initials, different forms like circles. Let's see, back here. Going a little bit further down, we see how we mixed the shrine shapes from earlier and into an M mixed with a T. I'll annotate that again for you as well. Let's see, where are we? Okay. So we're mixing those forms together, see what we can get. Can we get an M and a T out of that? Then down here, we're mixing forms of an M with piano keys, see what we can get from that. And even over here, we're messing around with the bow tie and the suspenders again to see if we can make MT shape combinations. So a lot of times, you know, I've talked about before how designing a unique logo, part of that comes from being able to take different ideas that may not seem to go together at first and finding a way to blend them into a very solid idea or a very solid ID for your client. So that's what that was about. Let me go ahead and just erase this, and we're going to go further down here. Hold on. Okay. So what do we do then? Still messing with the initials, the M and the T, this time using them from her album art for the Plastic Love album. Also trying to put her name within the Beatles typeface to see what that would do. You know, just continuing to experiment. Different shapes, different forms based on her childhood, her upbringing, and things that she did, and the musical genre that she was a part of, which again is called city pop. All right? So we're still messing around. We started drawing buildings, cityscapes, messing with more solid corporate forms, things with not many curves in them, okay? Messing with a lot of different 80s inspired typography, Again, the geometric blocky shapes are very, very 80s. And I like 80s types, so that really worked out for me. So looking at different examples of typography from City Pop, we're seeing these forms of one-dimensional segmented letters within two-dimensional letters to sort of emphasize and really grab the viewer's attention. I also worked with a little bit of more Japanese writing, this time the hiragana alphabet. If we look here, we see the hiragana version of Mariya, Takeuchi's name, and here we see the kanji version of Mariya, Takeuchi's name. All right, so anything that we can think of. When you only got 48 hours, your best bet is to research, sketch, research, sketch, research, sketch. You know, when you have more time, you might be tempted to just, take notes and then come back to sketch later. But when you only got 48 hours, you're taking notes and sketching, taking notes and sketching, taking notes and sketching. No time to think about it too much, just generate, 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 generate. So, to push forward, since City Pop was very popular for Japan in the 80s, and that's when Mariya had her biggest hit come out, the hit that's now again popular today, I started looking at popular logo forms and logo designs from the 1980s to see if we could do a call back to that. Not to mention 80s style seems to be in for the most part. So messing with different logos and forms, we had this stripe style. I'll go back and I'm gonna take that for you. A lot of grid styles, a lot of stripe styles. Started looking at how logos used to look back in the 80s. We had 7-Up, okay? And we had the logo for Tron. Now, if you notice, I did the logo for 7-Up from the 80s as well as the logo for 7-Up now. Now, why did I do that? That's because I want to see throughout time what parts of the most successful logo survived. Because even though we can use the 80s for inspiration, we still do want a logo that's now. We still do want a logo that is, well, excuse me, we don't just want a logo that's now. We want a logo that's timeless. And this 7-Up typography here has stood the test of time. After that, we went even further, started looking at other logos from the 80s like Pepsi, Atari. We also looked at logos that were big even after the 80s, logos that have stood the test of time and haven't had to be changed at all. The Wu-Tang symbol is very popular, and I went into Wu-Tang because they're a music group. We got to look into musical logos as well. Everything from the 80s logo for Burger King, the Houston Astros, Apple, Pizza Hut, all these different logos and shapes and styles. Here I was back to messing with that flower shape on her, above the eye on her signature. Went more into the City Pop forms, see if I could just do portions of the M, see what people could read. It's still legible without that other part of the M, and putting it within a little circle helps with the, helps make it a more solidified symbol. Started messing with symbols that you might see on the street. So these three lines here that you see, these three two-dimensional lines that you see. I noticed that Japanese streets, Japanese crosswalks have a lot of those white lines going on, a lot more than we do. So I was thinking about if we could use that because that's what you see in Japanese cities. Remember, we're talking about City Pop, and make that into an M, okay? So you just see how we're messing with different shapes and forms, all right? Now underneath that, I mess with bigger, blockier type within a square, simple forms like triangles, putting the pieces together. So yeah, as you can see, there was a ton of sketching going on. Let us continue, right? Now we kept going from 3D forms like this cube you see here, the microphone that's attached to the M for Mariya's signature, an M with headphones, using M shaped like a heart, right? See that? M, and even the M shaped like a heart with a T inside, because her big single was Plastic Love. So we're talking about love, we think of hearts. We also tried combining the forms of the popular striped logos from the 80s with the heart. And we just kept going and going and going, messing with the street shapes again, getting blocky. Now, when we got down here, I noticed something. As I was researching different kinds of musical typography throughout the 80s, I wanted to see how different genres of music were given a typeface identity, were given a graphic identity. So let's look at this here. All right. Now, this is more disco style, which was not just big in the 80s, but back in the 70s as well. And I started to realize that these type forms, or these lines that you see within the shapes, were much like grooves within a record. And it made me wonder, you know what? Let's do some more research on Mariya Takeuchi. I realized that Mariya Takeuchi was considered an icon for city pop. So to speak to that, to speak to her glory as a city pop icon, I thought to myself, if disco can glorify the grooves in a vinyl record to communicate, a unique look, maybe I can really find a unique aspect of city pop to show everyone that she is that pop icon, that city pop icon in Japan. So what did I do? Well, let me show you. Okay, now we're down here. After doing a thorough study of city pop, the genre itself, learning about it, I found that there was a huge American influence from American pop being fused with Japanese lyrics, strictly Japanese lyrics, the Japanese language within that music. I thought to myself, okay, American pop styles plus Japanese language. So I took the American flag, as you can see here, American flag, and then you see this here, this mixes, what you see the symbol here is the Japanese symbol for the country of Japan. This is how you write Japan in Japanese. So I put that on the American flag where the Japanese, or excuse me, I put that on the American flag where the blue and stars would usually be seen. And then I took the stripes of the American flag and waved them instead because, to make things a little more groovy. And then I started simplifying everything, right? So instead of taking a rectangle, I took a square, okay? And started mixing it with those vibes, with those vibe lines, those sound lines. Started getting this. Now, I took the, you see this rectangle that is split into two squares. Matter of fact, I'll zoom in for you. Okay. Now, if you look at this symbol here, the first symbol for Japan, you see this rectangle split into two squares. Let's take these musical waves, these sound waves, and mix them with that shape, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and erase these bits here. So we mix that, and then we got that, okay? I'll annotate that for you. We got this Japanese symbol with the sound waves within it, and then we simplified it to this. And then I realized that when you flip this here, it can kind of look like the letter M. You see that? Now, I switched the order of the strokes because over here, you have a curved stroke, a straight stroke, and a curved stroke. I decided to take the straight stroke and put it on the left to make a strong first leg for the M, and then take those two curved strokes, the two sound waves, and put them right next to each other. And I messed with them a little bit more. I got this shape, right? Started messing with it a little bit more, you know, finalizing it, until I came upon what? This shape right here. And folks, that is the M that we decided upon for Mariya Takeuchi's logo. Let's take a look at what happens when we add a bit more finesse to it to finalize it. Let's see what happens when we add a little more finesse to finalize that letter M that we decided upon. Such a beauty. Now on the right, you see that the logo is in black and white. We always want to make sure that our logos are legible in black and white before we do color. What else could this symbolize? We use that Japanese shape, as well as those two sound waves, then combine them together to make a letter M, and combine them together to make a letter M. It also is reminiscent of that cityscape though, right? Because the strokes here you see, is like one building standing straight up, and then two buildings in a more of a swaying shape. It's almost like they're dancing to the music of city pop. Remember, we always want to be able to justify the designs that we have done, okay? Now, let's look at the version on the left here. We have this pink letter form in this dark purple circle. Now, why did we choose pink and dark purple? Simple. These were the colors used on Mariya Takeuchi's Plastic Love single. Now, the Plastic Love single is a black and white photo, but the purple and pink are the colors used to write Mariya Takeuchi's name, as well as the words Plastic Love. And again, that is the single that she is most known for. So what do we have? We have a unique identity from Mariya Takeuchi. We have something that can say, this is Mariya, city pop icon, known for plastic love, a great musician who gets the city waving and moving, doing its thing. So there you have it. Within 48 hours, we were able to knock that out. That's how you do it. Remember, keep sketching and sketching, researching and researching. Do it simultaneously, especially when you are really crunched for time. That is what matters. And always remember, a logo is a unique identity for a client. It's not a story. It's not something complex. It's simple. Or as my design influencers call it, simple, legible, and distinctive. I'm Chuck West of CW Brand Solutions. Thanks for watching.